Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome live from the Great Hall in Manly, our beautiful campus here at ICMS and on the Castle on the Hill. My name is Todd and I'll be your MC today. And we're talking about the Bachelor of Property Development, Investment and Valuation. And I have two very special guests with me, Sam and Bill. We've got someone from the faculty side and we also have some current student. So we'll be here to answer all of your questions and also just give you a good understanding of our course and what to look forward to next year. Now, today we will be having some Q&As. So feel free to ask us any questions. Hopefully we can answer them. It looks like if I get any hard ones, I'm sending them over to Bill. But, you know, there's a big blue button that says Ask the MC. You can ask us anything. And please put any questions you like because we want to try and help and we want you to walk away from this presentation feeling like that you have got all your answers. A little bit about our speakers today. We have a senior lecturer and subject developer and reviewer, Sam. Sam has had a long career in the property industry, working as a managing director at CBRE. We're privileged to have someone like Sam with all his experience in the industry, and you'll hear a lot about our faculty that has not only that academic experience, but also that industry experience as well. So I'm really excited to hear from Sam, and thank you. And Bill is actually had a lot of leadership positions throughout high school, and he's excelled in the sporting field as well. You maybe can't tell on Zoom, but if Bill was standing next to me, he wouldn't fit in the screen. So Bill was a recipient of actually the Manly Rugby ICMS scholarship. So that's great for him, and he really aspires to own his own business someday in the property field. So we have both angles to get today. We're really, really excited for Sam and Bill to be here. And Sam, over to you to tell us a little bit about your insights on our Bachelor of Property course.
Thank you, Todd. Really appreciate that. I just wanted to very quickly welcome to Bachelor of Property, as Todd has mentioned. I just want to just a little bit about myself. My name is Sam Cucurullo. I'm a 45-year veteran in the property industry and have travelled the world with property as well. A little bit about what I've done in the past. I'm not going to go through all the 45 years. Just take it as I'm old and I'm experienced. I'm going to talk about the last 35 years, 10 years with Jones Lang LaSalle in the 80s. And in the 90s, I started with CBRE for 20 years, and then with Cushman's in the last 5 years of my corporate business life. And just a little bit about traveling the world. In about 2010, as you can see on the screen here, I was asked by CBRE, and they created a job for me to head up the Asia Pacific business line. And I went to Hong Kong with my wife, and we lived in Hong Kong for 5 years. After that period of time, we had a business that was about 210 million US, and we grew it almost double. And in that period of time, I came back after 2014 and started with Cushman & Wakefield, who asked me to join them, which was a privilege to do so. And in 2016, they asked me to go back to Asia and run the Asia Pacific region for property management, what they call asset services. And I was in Singapore for a short period and then travelled to India. As these two big organisations, Cushman & Wakefield and DTZ, were merging together, I was very fortunate to be part of that, particularly in India, where the two big groups were joining. They asked a person with a little bit of grey hair to go over there and make sure that it all went smoothly. And I ran the Asia Pacific area for that business line of property management. Just a little bit about you now, as potential students. One of the most important elements of being a student in property is having a passion. If you've got a passion for property, then I think one of these courses is just ideal for you, particularly the Bachelor of Property at ICMS. You need to be a strategic thinker, but not straight away. I think after a little bit of experience, you can start to become a strategic thinker. Looking for opportunities is always an issue and a very important element of property. And you need to be curious. You need to always ask questions, be naturally curious about what you want to do. A knack for customer service is also essential, and building relationships in property. I remember when I first started in the degree, most of those people that I built relationships with, as Bill will attest to in some years to come, those people will stay with you throughout your career as well. You'll meet them countless times during your career. And if you like to be challenged, property is your area for sure. It's a challenging, wonderful, I love property, so I'm always going to speak very highly of it. And one of the other elements is understanding markets and data. If you can understand the markets, some of the economy and how that will have an effect on property, you will be very well placed. You analyse it and well placed for it. This particular slide shows you the different careers that you have in property. And in many cases, there is a whole bunch more. So if you take my example, you have a commercial property industry and you have a residential. So I was in the non-residential area, mainly in the commercial area for all those years. And these are very similar type titles for each of the career opportunities you have. But if you think about commercial property, and let me distinguish between the residential and non-residential, commercial does talk about office buildings, does talk about retail, and also industrial and distribution centres, as well as alternative areas like data centres, aged care, health. So there is quite an interesting conversation with the Property Council of Australia at the moment, where they mention that the property industry has 1.4 million people that are housed within it as a labour force. And they say it's the largest industry of all of the careers opportunity. And I tend to agree, when you include construction in it, I tend to think that it's one of the biggest career opportunities that you can have. Now moving towards the ICMS and the flexibility, I think it's important to note that now during these periods, and particularly this difficult period we've got, online is very much the go-to. But we've also got a city campus for the core subjects, and this beautiful the ex-monastery that it's up on Manly Hills there, and it is one of the most beautiful places to go and teach at as well. I was quite amazed at how beautiful it is inside as well as outside. And it's got a study pattern of 3 years, which you can do less than 3 years, or part-time 3+ years. The main thing about this particular slide, which I want to talk to you about, we've redeveloped, I was part of that, in making sure that the course and the subject of the property, the Bachelor of Property, is a bit more assessment-based. So you'll see point 4 there. It's really an assessment-based opportunity for the students, instead of the old criteria where you had a couple of assignments and then did the exam. Probably about 50% of your mark was based on an exam at the end of the subject period. This is more about assessment-based, and it's much clearer for the students, much better, really. This is the graduate capability slide, which really has some interesting things in it. It talks about professional expertise. It talks about leadership, problem solving. In my area of property management, it happens on a daily basis, and it gives you the ability to understand what the issues are and then problem solve. Global citizenship, I am actually a product of it, because I've lived and worked with many different cultures, particularly in Asia, about 16 countries that I was involved with. And it gave me a capability. And I think this course, in being able to allow you to be a global citizen, does put you in good stead if you did want to travel overseas and work overseas. The collaboration is normal in most organisations, and the self-management is very important in property. One of the things about technology and information literacy, it's not so much about understanding the platforms, it's also understanding technology will change property. Unfortunately, property hasn't changed too much in technology. It's probably the last bastion, last industry bastion to change, but it's going to have an enormous change over the next decade or two. And I think that technology will be so critical for the growth of property in the future. This is one of my favourite slides, I must admit. The opportunity of students to have industry practice, internship during the course, and then they are saying in a survey that they were 90% already attuned to the industry by being employed in it. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for students. So essentially the course is 3 years. You'll see that the first year has 12 subjects in it. The second year is 2/3 of the year is industry training, and it has the ability for you to go out and get prepared for the industry. It's a really nice segue to get into the industry. Take it from me as a previous employer, and when I was up in Hong Kong, I had 6,000 people in that business line. The opportunity of having young people come in and not necessarily trying to retrain them coming in from a theory to a practical, but actually having the ability to see something like this in this course where they're already trained a little bit, or at least understand what it means to work in the property industry before they actually have their graduation. It's quite a very good thing to do. So a little bit more detail on each of the years. One of the things I love about this course is that it has a number of elements to it that really gets you ready for the industry, the pathway to success, this global citizenship that I mentioned before, the ability for property, understanding property development, the principles of valuation, which is a real marker to understanding how property is valued, and also the property and asset management. That's what I am actually teaching at the moment, property and asset management. It's one of my loves. And moving to year 2, one of the things that I mentioned a couple of times is the ability to be placed in the industry, and the university helps you with this. But more importantly as well is this level 200 electives, which I'll talk about in a few slides from now. And it's very interesting that you can do different electives. It doesn't have to be just in property. I think that's a very nice touch by the university. And then year 3 is really all about the finalisation of your course, having level 300 electives, which even gives you a wider range of opportunities to do different things, and then finalising your trimester 10 and getting into the industry, getting ready to get into the industry. So this is the slide on the level 200 electives. You generally do 2 of these that really match your career goals. And you'll see here that they're not just property related. In fact, they've got food and beverage services as an example. They've also got sports marketing, things that are really interesting for different people. Maybe for a person like Bill that is interested in sports, he can do parts of that as well as part of his property degree. And this level 300 electives, you may not be able to see this perfectly well because there's so many of them, but the things that I always recommend to a student coming into the property industry is think about marketing, and it's got that as part of this level 300. You can again pick 2 that aligns with your goals. And marketing, to me, not only marketing yourself as a brand, but also marketing for the company that you work for. It's really important for the future. One of the things that I was surprised about after I finished my corporate career and retired last year and did this course, I remember waiting for the students to arrive. I was excited to see them. And every one of them that walked into the room were dressed in this, beautifully attired, whether they suits or business attire. And I was a bit surprised initially, and they said to me that it was part of the requirement to dress up and make sure that they're, workplace ready. And I thought this was a lovely touch. This is very different to other universities that I've lectured at. Another important element is the partnerships that you have with industry leaders. As you can see there, CBRE is a place that I've worked for nearly 20 years. And you've got all of these, obviously, sports, because they've got different degrees here at ICMS. But the ability to have partners involved in your growth and your opportunity for internship is something that surprised me quite a bit. And the activity that they get involved, I believe that CBRE will actually talk, someone from that organisation will talk a little bit later on their partnership with ICMS. So the ability to apply is similar to other places. One of the things that I do appreciate when I was talking to the administration, they're very friendly and very helpful. The community seems to be very strong together. So the ability to then give them a call and have a chat about any of the subjects, I think is a really important thing, or possibly different courses. It's one of the nicer things to do with the organisation. And another interesting thing, another interesting development is that you can come in at different times of the year. So they've got 3 entry points: February, May, and August. And if you're thinking about starting up, then you should really apply now. If you've finished school and interested in applying for property, you should come in, try and get in at mid-year instead of waiting for the February entry. There's a number of different degrees at ICMS. This is just a slide to give you an understanding of all the various degrees. The Bachelor of Property is the one that clearly I'm interested in, but my recollection of ICMS was that they initially started in hospitality and tourism and have developed all these other courses and other degrees. And Todd, I'm sending it back to you.
Thank you so much, Sam. And I guess from our point of view, it's just so fantastic that we have a lecturer that has such incredible experience in the industry. And guys, I think that's one of the reasons we have such high graduate employment rates, is because of our lecturers not only know what they're talking about, but they have experience in this industry too. So Sam, I'm sure there'll be some great questions in the Q&A later on, and look forward to hearing from you. So thank you again. It would be great also to hear from Bill, who is a current student at ICMS and studying the property degree. He's actually also somewhere on this campus. I don't know where, in a room somewhere. So Bill, it's thank you for taking the time out to speaking to the group, and take it away.
Yeah, so thank you, Todd. As mentioned, I'm Bill. I'm studying a Bachelor of Property here at ICMS. I play for the Manly Marlins, and I'm also a brand ambassador as well. So basically that's just going to expos and helping out with other various things like that. And when I was asked to do this, I thought that it was a great opportunity to help kids that are in the same position I was in last year. I think it's really important to have a good mindset of what you're going to do for next year. I definitely didn't know at this point in time, but when I heard about, a place that was really close to me in Manly, I got to give it a try. And so I've really loved coming to ICMS just every day, just because with the students like collaborating, the classrooms are actually quite small. So I'm sitting in the classroom with about 5 or 6 tables, and there'd probably be only about 20 plus students maybe in here at one time. And it's been really good to, help understand content. And the lecturers have just been awesome as well, just really helping me out, especially. I came to ICMS, to be honest with you, just because of the location. It's so close to home for me. The convenience of coming from where I live to here and then straight to rugby training, it's really helped. I can get here and back into training in like 30 minutes. So it's, heaps better than all those other universities where they're traveling, 1 to 2 hours just to get into the city from wherever they live. So I chose this course because I've just always been interested in learning about property industry, just basically how it runs, why buildings are developed in certain ways, and just the overall interest in the topic, basically. Hopefully towards into the future, I can learn from experiences of how the property industry fully works. And through this, I'll be able to hopefully develop my dream job or my dream company, which is running my own property firm. It's been a major goal of mine for a long duration of time. And from there, hopefully I can learn, various new things from doing this course, improve areas and develop areas of need to help the country, but also just to, become aware of the abilities that this course has given me to really develop the sector and really hopefully become successful, which I guess is everyone's, big goal. Now, if you're sitting there and looking at me and saying, what's this, big blonde head, buff head looking at me for, telling me to, get off my ass and do some work, and, he's just sitting there saying, why would you come to ICMS? What's so good about it? Well, I'm about to answer that question for you. If you're a kid, that lives anywhere from about Neutral Bay up to Palm Beach, this is the place for you. It's close. The beach is literally 5 minutes down the road. It's just awesome. Like I'm not even taking the piss. It's just great. You'd really love it. The various opportunities you have within your course are unbelievable. And I just wanted to dive quickly into the scholarship program you can do. So through all the courses, there's a scholarship for basically each one. And through this, obviously a scholarship would be huge because, you don't have to pay a certain amount of money towards your, degree here. And it would be so good for you to just, not have to pay. And on top of this, obviously you're going to meet new people. That's just the way of life, but you're going to meet some people that sometimes actually all around the world. Unfortunately, due to the COVID outbreak at the moment, we haven't really, been on campus, or I haven't really met much overseas kids, to be honest with you. But from previous years, I've been told that overseas kids are really great because it gives you, another outlook on life from different areas around the world. ICMS it's just been so great for me, personally. I'm only in my first year, just finished my second trimester, so I'm on holidays now, so it's awesome. I just think the opportunity you have here with all the companies that Sam mentioned, there's so much opportunity to gain, there's so much knowledge to know. And I just think with all those companies, all that knowledge and all that experience, it's going to be really helpful for you into the future for whatever degree you choose. That's all I got, really. If there's any questions, be sure to ask Todd, and I'm sure, or myself, and I'll be able to answer them for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bill. And look, it's great to hear someone talking real and someone really explaining their experience here at ICMS. And I think it's important for Year 12 kids to know that there are people like Bill, and just to say, if you don't live from Neutral Bay to the Palm Beach, although that is convenient, we do have free parking for everyone. So even though Bill's pretty close, I still think he probably drives. But for everyone else, it is quite convenient having that free parking aspect because, particularly at times like this, you don't want to be traveling public transport. And certainly I can't think of any other institution that would have free parking. I was at another university a few months ago, and the parking was extraordinarily expensive. So that's one of the benefits that we have. Bill, I just want to ask you, because pre the latest lockdown, when I was seeing you on campus, you seem to have met a lot of people and made a lot of friends. What do you think, why is that possible here at ICMS, and what do you think the difference is between you having that experience and some of your other mates that are at bigger universities?
I think, why it's possible is just because, as I've said, I think briefly, the classrooms are so much smaller. And I think that's a really, I don't think kids take that for granted, because there's maybe 20 or 25 plus kids, in one classroom at one time. And you compare it to other universities who, could have upwards of 100 to 200 kids in one lecture. And I just think it's a really good opportunity to meet new people, which is, what life after school is all about. But just coming together in the smaller classrooms, you get to know people, you get to talk, you might make a friend who's a friend of another person, you become friends after that. So I think that's the difference, just the smaller classrooms. It's easier to conversate with your lecturer as well. I know I've got a few friends studying at different universities, and their lecturers aren't as good as the lecturers here, purely because they've probably got, three times as many emails coming through from students in the 100+ lecturers, whereas, you've only got 20, 25 kids maybe emailing you. So the support from them to come back to you straight away and really assist you is definitely a key role that happens here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bill. Sam, I wanted to ask, the start of your presentation, you mentioned the amount of places the property world can take you. And someone who's also lived in Hong Kong, I kind of brought a smile to my face. It's such a wonderful city. Could you maybe give some insights in what is going to be possible for these graduates, where CBRE is hiring, and kind of how you see the property industry evolving going forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Todd. The way I look at it is you've got to pick a organisation potentially that has a lot of interactions between the different countries, and CBRE has certainly got that. Certainly Cushman's have that, as well as Jones Lang. They're international property companies, and the ability to move from one country to another is much easier in these organisations. They do this day in, day out. And not only that, it's also about having that interaction with the different countries as well. And you may not be moving there, but you may just have those conversations about where the markets are and how they do things in a particular sector. And as you get that really global feel about organisations, particularly the larger ones. So I really encourage anyone to, if they're thinking about wanting to move to a different country, to go with the bigger organisations, because they can make that freely happen. It doesn't always happen, but it's certainly a much more of a pathway opportunity for students.
Absolutely. And guys, if you are tuning in about half an hour, we actually have a graduate who's a senior manager at CBRE talking. So it's a great segue, Sam mentioning that, and how exciting to be living in such dynamic cities. It does seem like a lifetime away when we were traveling, but it'll happen again, guys. And when it does, what a great experience to have. Sam, also, I do know that you've had some experience. I'm not going to name the universities. I'm not like that, but I know that you've lectured at other institutions, and it was so cool to hear your first feeling when you saw the students walk in and wearing suits. And so just an insight on how you found it here, and what do you feel is a major difference between a property course at a bigger university and a more boutique style institution like ICMS?
Yeah, I felt that very strongly. I felt that they're more practical. The students have a much more grounded, particularly the second and third year students, after they've done that internship for a couple of, that 2/3 of that year. I found that the ability, so when I was employing, I always struggled with the students coming from a university and doing it very well at the university, getting high marks, but the ability for them to then get retrained into the practical, it was a period of time, whereas a university like ICMS that can allow, a person already educated in the property by working in property beforehand, reduces that gap, in my view. So that was one difference. The attire was another difference. They almost became workforce focused immediately, and they had a different discussion point inside the actual classrooms. Bill's right. There are about 20 to 25 students in each of the classes, some even smaller. And in doing so, it does allow certainly a lecturer and the students to have a lot more interaction. I'm a bit of a face-to-face. I like the face-to-face. The online to me is a little bit harder, but the face-to-face and the ability to have interactions, that was a big bonus for me, having a smaller classroom. I've lectured in front of hundreds of people in the past, and I felt that there's no lines that can be crossed in terms of having relationships and having that conversation with students and understanding exactly where they're up to. You can do that here.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for that. And look, I guess for us, we're so privileged to have someone with such experience to be teaching our students. And I guess, guys, that's why we come up the top as the leaders is career-focused education and graduate employment, because of that industry training and because of the lecturers that we have that have that industry experience. So look, a few things to think about now if you're in year 12 and you're wondering what to do next. You can apply for early entry still. We are going to be as flexible as possible. We know this is a crazy year, particularly for the people who've been through year 11 and year 12. We're with you on this. We know it's not normal, but hopefully 2022 is a little bit different. We're also listed in UAC. So put us down as a preference. I know Bill did. Preference 1 would be great because we do have limited places. We'd love to have you next year, but it's very competitive. So look, please list us on UAC. And we also have live chat available right now. So if you have any questions about admissions or just any questions at all, we're more than happy to help and answer them. And look, we just wish you well for the rest of your school year. Thank you so much, Sam and Bill, for your time, and look forward to catching up with all of you soon.
Thanks, Todd.